Now, with Star Wars Celebration officially over and a lot of fans having to wait until 2025 for the next Celebration event, which by the way takes place in, of course, Japan during April of that year, we also have on top of this D23 coming out in the coming months that's going to have a lot more Star Wars show announcements and the announcement of 3 Star Wars movies being centered around the Old Republic era. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, we already know that Disney has been going through an endless shakeup between the executives, the board, Bob Iger, and such, that's really been creating this ripple effect to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to Star Wars, and more, and exactly what they are planning to do with all future Disney-led projects. Now that brings us to exactly what Bob Iger recently got himself into between himself, the board, and the executives, and why the board is calling for his firing by 2024, and why they're very unhappy with him, and how he's in a lot of trouble right now based on a specific proposal that he is being very persistent with when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy. Now, moving on to the next big thing about all of this is that we know that Bob Iger is really trying to turn things around for the franchise, to really kind of create his own legacy, to really create a footprint in the Star Wars franchise that he can leave behind. Basically, what he is doing is that this is the guy that is bringing Star Wars back to the theaters, and that's great and all. You know, I gotta give the guy at least some kind of credit. As much as I really am skeptical about Bob Iger and criticize the guy a lot, I'm not a huge fan of Bob Iger, and I've never been, but I gotta give him credit also for allowing John and Dave to do whatever they need to do. However, now that Disney and Lucasfilm are beginning to work on several projects at once, it's noted that currently Disney CEO Bob Iger is currently getting into big trouble after a recent Disney shakeup between the executives and board members after proposing a big plan on the Kathleen Kennedy firing. Now, it's noted that Bob Iger wants to pursue his plan that if Kennedy does indeed get fired, which is close to becoming reliant on the success of Indiana Jones 5, that Iger wants to cover it up that Kennedy is stepping down voluntarily in order for Disney to prevent toxic headlines toward Lucasfilm. Iger's plan is to fire Kennedy by this August still, which may already be sabotaged based on a new plan by executives that they are pushing for Kennedy to have a second chance if and only if Indy 5 performs wildly well at the box office with great fan reception. Iger, however, and his plan to cover up Kennedy's firing, if it does come to pass, is shaking things up at Disney, leading board members wanting to fire Bob Iger over the recent proposal that if he is very persistent with, of course. The board members are not pleased with Iger trying to force Disney to quietly fire Kennedy behind the scenes and masking it as her stepping down, as this would only show that they are not a trustworthy company. Let me just stop right here for one moment. Now, we all know that Disney right now is a very controversial company among everybody. Moviegoers, theme park goers, people that buy the merchandise. It's not looking good for Disney lately. I mean, with Marvel, you know, they really failed with Quantumania. You know, when you look at stuff like that, that was a very big failure on Marvel's end, through Disney's end as well. And so they really have to step up their game. But what they're doing now with this plan by Kathleen Kennedy, and we talked about this just yesterday, of how executives are initiating a plan that's not concrete yet, by the way, guys. It will either pass or not pass by this May. And that, of course, is for Kennedy to get a second chance at staying at Lucasfilm until her contract ends next year, depending on if Indy 5 does well or not. If it does well, she'll stay. If it fails, she'll get kicked out and fired. That's basically the plan that they are trying to push because they feel it's the most fair response. And to me, I don't believe that we should use fair in Kathleen Kennedy's sense, who has only created a lot of problems with Star Wars lately, a lot of issues with the sequel trilogy movies, Kenobi, Boba Fett, and more. So she's got to go, she's got to get out of there, and Bob Iger, I don't agree with this at all. The fact that he wants to eventually, if she does get fired, he wants to cover it up that she's stepping down voluntarily, giving her that golden parachute and that golden exit so that they can actually and literally vanish all potential headlines against Lucasfilm and Disney, and making it seem like the fans did not get what they wanted. That's basically what they want to avoid. They want to avoid pretty much catering to a lot of fans that would celebrate that actual event of Kathleen Kennedy getting fired. Because they're fully aware, by the way, guys, that the majority of Star Wars fans do not like Kathleen Kennedy. It's nothing personal or anything like that. We don't like her business. We don't like how she handles the franchise. I mean, that's that. But moving on to the next thing here is that additionally, something that investors, of course, the board, etc., are extremely not satisfied with, and are calling for his firing by 2024 to replace him with another CEO, to take his place that will perform things more in conjunction with their efforts toward Disney-led projects in the parks. Kennedy is currently fine-tuning Indy 5 in panic in order to make the film a success as much as she can, in the plan, of course, if the plan passes by this May, that will give Kennedy a second chance to stay at Lucasfilm for the rest of 2023, into the beginning stages of 24, depending on if Indy 5 does well at the box office or not. This plan has yet to pass, but is very likely to by this May. Kennedy is fully aware about the Disney shakeup and is doing everything that she can with the last-minute editing of Indy 5 to perfect the film with James Mangold. Now, obviously, Kennedy seems to have, some kind of stage of panic here. I don't know if you guys saw her at Celebration, but there's some interviews where she just looks frightened. She looks very just nervous. She looks very shaken up. I don't know what to really label it as, but there's something off about Kathleen Kennedy in a lot of the on-video interviews where she's not blinking, she's staring right into the camera, she looks very still in some shots. She is really just different than how she usually is, and I think a lot of it has to do with all of these things that are happening behind closed doors, between the executives, the board, Bob Iger, and this big plan to get her out, and why she is doing everything that she can with Indy 5 to be basically her Hail Mary to just stay at Lucasfilm. So, the thing about this too is Bob Iger, I believe, is in the wrong. Why cover it up if she gets fired? Why try to avoid headlines? It would only, I think it would only be a positive. Because you would make a lot of fans happy that Disney has common sense to let go of somebody that is not doing a good job with their work on Star Wars or anything like that. And to cover it up and make, the casual fans that don't really, read into all this stuff all that often, they're gonna, blindly believe that Kennedy just stepped down, and that was it. That's what Disney wants to do. That's what Bob Iger wants to do. They want to cater to a lot of the common moviegoers that Kennedy just stepped down, she was not fired, she did nothing wrong, she just wanted to leave and go about her merry way. That's what they want to cover it up like. So that's why board members are very unhappy with Iger, guys. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.